welcome to STARCAST from Planet Waves. I'm Eric Francis Coppolino, your friendly neighborhood astrologer, here with the edition accompanying the October 10th horoscope. There is a special edition accompanying today's article, which covers the topic of can you make a hurricane, or can you move a hurricane around and make it do things like crash into things and so forth. And I talk about what I've learned exploring this exact issue since 2001. I first wrote about it in 2011 in an article called Here at the Edge of the World. That is all over on the other article connected to this. If you're listening on one of the remote channels, you can check that out at planetwaves.eu. That is the Planet Waves Substack. Once again, welcome. Thank you for joining me. One other housekeeping point, a happy one, unlike the hurricane discussion is neither here nor there. It doesn't really matter that much. That's the important thing. But anyway, I sat down, let's see now, it was a week ago on Monday to write the outline of the sign readings for that was last year, for the awakening. We are no longer somewhere in between. We are now somewhere, and that somewhere is approaching the awakening, and that is the 2025 annual edition of Planet Waves. I think this is somewhere around the 26th or 27th. I can never get it quite right because I started in 1999. But anyway, so I start the outline, right? I'm going to write the outline. I end up writing an ebook. I don't really know how I did this, but as of today, I'm up to like a pretty good sized ebook, and meaning that it's like not too short, it's not too long, it's printable. It is, printable. That's the important thing. That's the really important thing as far as I'm concerned, is you can get it off of your phone, your tablet, or your computer and get it into physical reality, make it your own, draw on the thing, mark it up, and whatever you want to do. And so what I did in this was, instead of just outlining the broader interpretations of the aspects of 2025, which is what I also intended to do. Actually, I just intended to write an outline, like 15 sentences. But I ended up looking at the kind of natural history of the astrology that we're living with today. What led into all the things that we're experiencing today. I go back to 1993 for one sign, Capricorn. I go back to 1850 for Aries, because the last time anything vaguely resembling anything this interesting happened was 1850, and then 1922, and then around 1971, and then now. So those are the big stops for Aries. They're the big, express stops. A lot of little interesting ones tucked in there. And so I've got this thing that really is quite exciting, actually, and unlike anything that exists anywhere. It's kind of like an astrology book written for right now, looking at what leads into like all the stuff that we've got. And so there's great stuff on, for example, I do a lot of stuff with minor planets. There's a lot about Eris. There's a lot about Eris and the digital world. There's a chapter on the Uranus-Neptune conjunctions of 1993 and how those led into the digital age. There's a whole discussion of Aquarius, including Uranus going through Aquarius and Neptune going through Aquarius. That's already happened to prepare us to talking about Pluto going into Aquarius. I talk about the social conditions described by Aquarius, and I give a chapter on Neptune in Pisces, which leads into the topic of fiery Neptune, which we have coming, Neptune in Aries, coming next year. And as part of a review of that, I look at Neptune in Sagittarius. That started in 1970, lasted for 14 years. And then that goes into the current moment. I mean, this is like the most exciting Planet Waves article ever written, and it's all astrology. Usually I get sidetracked and start talking about the world. This is like, I do some of that, obviously, but mostly I'm focusing on the astrology many events. Aries in your solar chart. The events of Aries from 25 and 26. Understanding the Chiron Eris conjunction that is coming up and that last happened in 1970-71. Saturn and Neptune enter Aries. That's coming right up. And so on. Mars retrograde in Virgo and Leo. Pluto in Aquarius. A second take at Pluto in Aquarius. And then all that's happening in Gemini. So we have a very exciting year coming up. All of the outer planets change signs. Pluto settles into Aquarius. That happens in November. Then Neptune enters Aries. Uranus enters Gemini. Sedna just entered Gemini. That doesn't get full props yet, but it should. And so that's what I have got. And the why I'm saying this now is we should have this ready in about a week for all purchasers of The Awakening, the 2025 annual edition. My intent is to wrap this thing up basically tomorrow, or at the worst over the weekend, get it into copy editing, and then get it out to customers as soon as possible. I'm planning on having these written readings done this year. I've been very good at meeting these deadlines. I'm aiming for December, and then once the written's done, the audio is a breeze, and that is my long housekeeping announcement. The book is called The Awa. That's a Japanese word. Anyway, I won't get into that. But there you go. The Awa, the introduction to The Awakening ebook, coming soon to a Planet Waves near you. All right, what's going on here? So the good news about the astrology of our moment is that we have left a lot of really, really turbulent astrology behind us. It has been an extremely turbulent spring and summer and early autumn. And there have been all kinds of things, and hurricanes and wars and student protests and uprisings. And this has all been in the astrology, particularly demonstrated by the eclipses in Aries and Libra, one in April, one in October, a couple of lunar eclipses mixed in there, and basically we are done with all that. So now we are in a relatively placid space for the astrology. It's not like there's nothing going on. There's still some things going on, which I will describe, but there's not this kind of feeling of just like being on the roller coaster and you can't get off. So I suggest taking advantage of that, catching up with yourself with the things you want to do, not the things that you have to do. Take any chance to go slower. I know a lot of people are constantly going hither and thither, like to no end, and you have to plan your way out of that. You have to make decisions to get out of that, and you might need to simplify, you might need to get help, but this is a good time to take that opportunity because, look, are you the only person who feels like if you're too busy, you're really missing your life? And you're living, but it's not like you're completely able to live the way that you want to live in modest ways. Yeah, we'd all like a private jet, but that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is having time to do some of the things that you love without having to pack them into anything. And this is not something that happens by accident. It's not something that happens when you get old. We're all getting older. Some of us are verging on officially old, and it's like, wow, there's not just this moment where everything's calm in this world. You have to make it that way. And so we get an opening for that. The next big thing happening would seem to be Mars retrograde in December and the Jupiter-Saturn square. These are Jupiter-Saturn square has been in effect all year, and Mars retrograde is one of those typical things that in itself says slow down and review what you want. Now, as for the moment we're in, looking at a chart right now for 3:51 p.m. on October 10th, we're in a very interesting pattern involving Mars, Chiron, the Sun, and the Moon. The Moon is a quick visitor to this pattern. The Moon's currently at first quarter. That means 1 week till the full moon. But what the Moon is doing is it is opposite Mars. It is square the Sun. It is square Chiron and square Eris. So the Moon is very busy, but the aspect at the heart of all of this is Mars square Chiron. And this happens about once a year because Mars has a 2-year orbit, and so every year it's going to square Chiron from one side and then from the other side, and Eris is right there. So this is highlighting the conjunction of Chiron and Eris, which we're rapidly moving into, that is exact in the spring, and then through 2026. That is a big social upheaval and personal revelation, hence the title of the annual, The Awakening. So Mars gets into this square first with Chiron. And this is an interesting aspect because it often represents people in their natal charts who take integrity too seriously. They try to be too perfect and not do anything that might get them into any trouble of any kind. And by which I mean like personal decisions, things about pleasure, who they might have sex with, what they might do for fun. And it's a little uptight. It needs to be exercised and loosened up a little bit. And this concept of perfection and caution not taken so seriously. Now, I'm not saying to live like a fool and drive drunk on the New York State Thruway. It's not what I'm getting at. I think you know the kind of thing that I'm talking about. This inwardly, emotionally restrictive thing where desire is just always kept in check. And this does not lead to very much fun. It does not lead to very much contentment. Now, while I'm on this topic, Juno has been making interesting aspects throughout the year, and I keep forgetting to mention that Juno is about certain facets of relationships, and usually it represents the things that are the sticking point, the point of contention in relationships. And so there's a touch of resentment with Juno, who always feels like she's getting the short end of things. It is not necessarily true. It is possible to come from Juno's viewpoint and have your standards set so high that you must always be set up for disappointment, and this is absolutely no fun whatsoever. And Juno is in this. Exactly conjunct Chiron as I speak, splitting a degree. And the repeated appearances of Juno in the chart pattern, particularly, for example, opposite Chiron, and then next it will be opposite Eris, describe a lot of stress on monogamous relationships. By that I mean relationships that are in fact monogamous, relationships that pretend to be monogamous, relationships where the people in them are actually polyamorous, but they're trying to pretend to be monogamous or act monogamous so they don't threaten anyone, or so that they don't do something and then their partner does something and then they get jealous because their partner does something. Get the fuck over yourselves. Seriously, the only way out of a complicated situation in a relationship like this, particularly where it's emotional and sexual complication or ripples on relational values, is to be honest. There are plenty of people who think, no, I cannot be honest. I'm not going to tell everything. But why exactly? And okay, I could see that, but I couldn't see maintaining that and then also pretending that this person with whom you won't be honest is also your deepest intimate partner, your closest confidant, and all of that. Either you are real with people who are important to you, or you are not real with people who are important to you. Either you are you are telling them who you are and what you feel and what you do, or you're not. There's really not that much of a gap between them. Where the gap is in between reality and one's self-image, reality and one's sense of security, reality and not wanting to be known for all these things you might be feeling and desiring and experiencing, and experiences you may have had in the past. And this basically smothers the connection between people. It certainly smothers the erotic connection between people, and it's a really good way to do that. If you don't want to be close to someone that you are close to, then the way to create distance is just to be cryptic and mysterious and don't tell them anything, and then basically the room will fill up with fog, and maybe they'll wonder where all the energy went. You'll know where all the energy went because you made the choice to conceal yourself. But all that concealing cannot work at the same time as being open and honest and expressive and living as if you're alive. So a lot of things are talking to Chiron right now. I mean, in this moment, the moon is square Chiron, the sun is opposite Chiron, Mars is square Chiron, Venus is at 150 degrees to Chiron. That's kind of like, what am I going to do about this? Like this kind of, you're taking a curve a little too fast, wondering if you're going to flip over. But you have to make the adjustment because you know that there's something that you are holding onto. You need to express. That's Venus making a 150-degree aspect to Chiron, and then Jupiter making a 60-degree aspect. Let me go over those again. And we can count Mercury as being an aspect. Mercury's opposite Eris was just opposite Chiron, and Venus, and the moon, and, well, let's skip Pisces, and then Jupiter and Mars and Vesta are all talking to Chiron and Eris, and they are talking back. It would seem to me there is significant fear of things going out of control. The problem with that is that the more you do, when you're in one of these cycles where you're really worried things are going to go out of control and you do everything you can to keep things in control, that is a setup for the spring popping. Or you're having a sense that this you just can't contain your reality. So I'm suggesting that you open the valve a little bit, and that you maybe have a little trust in the people that you've chosen to be close to. And remember that you can't be happy unless you are real. And this, I know, raises every level of anxiety that's been packed into us since the third grade in junior high school and every place else where if you're real, you get in trouble. But at a certain point, one cannot live one's life strictly in avoidance of bullies. And at a certain point, you have to be willing to get punched or throw a punch and not live in constant fear that something might kind of break through to the surface. That's just not going to serve anyone. And there is a limit to how much integrity you can have before the least wind just kind of breaks you. The integrity includes the principle of flexibility. So Mars will be in this slow square to Chiron. Looks to me like all through the weekend. Then it's going to start picking up a square to Eris. So there's going to be this little flirtation with, oh my God, if I express my desire, things are going to go out of control. If I change my mind and do something I want and not something I don't want, oh my God, things are going to go out of control. It's better if you choose that moment, in my opinion, as a seeker and person and astrologer. All right, I leave you with that. The end music is about to cue. There is a fabulous video that's available on all the Planet Waves video channels. An introduction, it's a 20-minute introduction to 2025 astrology. It's also right on the front page at planetwaves.net. And the Planet Waves Substack at Planet Waves EU. If you're listening to this on some far-flung remote audio podcast listening service like Duck Pond and all of those, I'm Eric Francis. This presentation is part of the Planet Waves project, a seemingly multifaceted project. I do all these things myself, and I don't let on the other half of the things I do when it's really late at night and I turn on my guitar amplifier. We never know quite what is going to happen. I'm easily reached at EFC at planetwaves.net. Thank you again for tuning in. Lots of love on an absolutely gorgeous Thursday afternoon, and bye for now.